Jay Stahl and Megan Zimba, and I remember her last name because it goes with Simba from The Lion King. So if you're ever wondering that, that's a great memory. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Jay Stahl to come up, and while he's coming up, I'm going to introduce him. So Jay's career at CBT began at a young age, helping sweeping floors and doing various jobs. Upon graduating from Georgetown University and a role with Boston Gear, Jay returned to CBT's business, products, peoples, and culture. In the ensuing decades, Jay progressed through many leadership roles, including development and implementation of CBT's ERP system, leading their marketing, IT, services, serving as the SVP and general manager, and most recently as president. Jay and his wife, son, and daughter reside in Cincinnati, Ohio, and in his spare time he enjoys family gatherings, traveling, playing golf, skiing, live music, collecting, and drinking great wine. So I'm going to need some wine suggestions. Jay, everyone. Awesome. Up next we have Megan. Megan is a brand storyteller, a marketer for manufacturers with a BA and MA in professional and technical writing from the University of Wisconsin. She has been writing for manufacturing since 2008. Megan hosts a live video broadcast called Mavens of Manufacturing, where the series focuses on the sector of women and its mission to attract younger generations to join manufacturing or engineering career pathways to help close the skill and gender gaps. Megan is a proud law enforcement officer's wife and a mother of 3, which one of them is in the audience today. She enjoys cooking, CrossFit, and a great cup of coffee or a glass of whiskey. Everyone, Megan. Awesome. Last but not least, we also then have, often referred to as the leader of the new American manufacturing renaissance, Andrew Crow is one of the most influential people in manufacturing today. Drew, as he prefers, strives to ignite and energize American manufacturing by exposing youth, community, political leaders, and underserved communities to this industry. His mission is to ensure that we put our best innovators, creators, and thinkers in this space where they can thrive and grow. From a teenage father and 2-time felon to college graduate, Drew realized his potential of a career path in the manufacturing industry. In 2020, he embarked on the American Manufacturing Renaissance Tour across the country. In fact, you were in Tampa yesterday, and now you're in Cincinnati today. And he is an instructor at the Rankin Technical College of St. Louis, Missouri, home to one of the worst baseball teams in the U.S., and he teaches advanced manufacturing technology. He is also the co-host of Project Manufacturing. Drew's impressive resume includes addressing the White House, the Pentagon on industrial policies, a feature of Forbes magazine by one of our great friends, Jim, and voted the Aerospace and Aviation Man of the Year twice. Above all, he is a well-positioned leader that moves the front lines forward with the battle to close the workforce and skills gap in manufacturing. Everyone, Andrew.
Hey, it's the girl
Boom.
that figured out the technology.
Awesome. So
Leave it to the lady to get things done.
So we're going to be moving to just a 45-minute discussion of some questions with the audience, and the panelists on stage, and then we're going to move to a 15-minute Q&A at the end. So if there are questions that you have, we welcome them. But to get things kicked off, I think really what we talk about is manufacturing. So in the context of manufacturing and the role you play, what does innovation look like and mean to you? Megan, with you holding the microphone, let's start with that. But what does innovation look like in this industry?
I should have probably handed it back to you so I didn't have to first. So for me, I think innovation looks like a more diverse set of teams. So right now, being a woman in manufacturing, we only represent around 30%. And when you break it down in disciplines, it's less than that. It's around 2 to 3%. I think some even have 11%. So for innovation to actually be to its fullest potential, a word that Elise was using in her opening, we need to start diversifying teams more. And that means we have to do a lot of the community outreach that you mentioned in your keynote. So we have to be really proactive in connecting with the younger generation so that they can actually see themselves in the sector. Because if they don't see themselves in the sector, they're not going to want or be interested in joining it. High schools are doing a fantastic job kind of promoting the other areas that kids can go into. And one of the areas that they really need help to promote more is the STEM opportunities and the opportunities within manufacturing and engineering. They also need to bring in people to actually show students, hey, you have a place here, you fit here. So one example that I can bring up, IMTS is around the corner, and I'm really excited because the local high school that I graduated from, I'm actually bringing around 45 students to IMTS so that they can see the different technologies and talk to the different companies so that they know what the basic stuff that they're learning in their VOTEC program, how it can extend beyond that, and they can talk to people and see people like them, because in smaller communities especially, it's really hard for them to see themselves in this sector. Who wants to go next?
Awesome.
Yeah, at CBT, our focus is really about creating a culture of innovation, and that's all about the people and finding folks who want to understand the latest and greatest technologies and help our customers to understand it, help them figure out how to implement improve processes, improve technology, Industry 4.0 into their manufacturing process, into their machinery. And I think the greatest example of that I've seen for us was actually created by our team. We gave them a blank wall, and they came up with this, what they call the powerhouse. And that is literally a working demo of Industry 4.0 in our conference room. And as a doubter to that, I said, you know, how often are we going to actually use this? And it's used every day. We have customers in there designing the next process or machine, and really it gives them the opportunity to break things and not have it happen on the plant floor, and try new things. And it's really just been a tremendous success. So I think that's the best representation that I can see physically, besides just the energy of our people.
I'm going to say this, I'm a big fan of the Powerhouse. Anybody that has not been to the Powerhouse, go immediately. But I'm going to say collaboration. I think that culture is amazing. I think that diversity is even more amazing. And I think that collaboration is the glue that fits those things together, right? And that's just not collaboration with team members. That's collaboration across industries. That's collaboration with your local tech schools and your high schools. And I'd even go as far as to say middle schools are even more important. I'm a big proponent of getting in front of middle school students, but more importantly, a lot of times when you have middle school presentations, they got to get a ride there. So their parents come. And when we change the minds of the parents, that then changes the minds of the guidance counselors, and there's that collaboration again. And we're working at two different angles to get these kids excited and energized and into our field. Collaboration across technologies. If you guys are from manufacturing, traditional backgrounds, machinists, per se, you have this age-old adage, oh, I'm a lathe guy, I'm a manual guy, I'm a CNC guy. I think now those people can become one, right? Or those people can be encouraged to be more collaborative across processes. So you can say, hey, when you do your process, if you do it like this, it'll be a little bit more easy for me and less time consuming. And that collaboration begets communication. And the more we can communicate, the more we can identify areas that we can get better in with our culture, with our diversity, with the way that we do our processes. So collaboration begets innovation, and then it also strengthens the culture and it strengthens the diversity.
Yeah, there you go. So, Drew, I'm gonna have you answer this next question moving forward. You've shared some really interesting stories online talking about how people who've gone through your class back when you were teaching at the college, went out, they started their own business, they became an entrepreneur. And I think when we look at manufacturing and the industry, it's viewed as an old white male industry.
Yes.
And when we look at 2.8 million unfulfilled jobs in manufacturing need to be fulfilled. But one of the biggest places I see is, what if we change the culture? What if we change the diversity of our industry to have more people of color, to have a better opportunity? Can you speak more on that? What does the numbers look like? Like, what percentage of minorities and people of color are in our industry now? And just to put it in perspective, if we were to increase that number by 10%, how many jobs will be fulfilled in that area? Just from your background, what does that experience look like from that perspective?
So I think last Deloitte study I checked, we're at about 3.8%. And when we look at these numbers that we saw earlier with the open jobs and with the jobs that are coming, if we begin to tap into these areas and these communities that have been often overlooked, we can start backfilling some of these positions immediately. We've got lots of pockets of people that have never even heard of manufacturing. So I go into different cities that often have the same problem. I've got 30 machines open. I've got work on them all day. And, we moved to the suburbs, and now I'm disconnected from where the workers are. Or, we're an hour outside, and most of the workforce doesn't look like me, and they're from an urban area, right? And we want to get the jobs there, but we can't communicate in a way that they're understanding or they're wanting to come and build that bridge. So I think that, with that collaboration, we need to start penetrating these markets where there are a lot of people that are looking to work, right? We have a correlation between recidivism rates and violent crimes and good jobs, right? So when we have jobs like manufacturing that pays a high wage and there's a endless ladder of opportunity, and you have somebody investing in you, wanting to skill you up, then there are more reasons for you to stay there outside of just monetary value. So once you see how much somebody cares, then you start to care in return. So, I was one of those people. I two-time felon, 2 kids before I was 18, and I didn't have a lot of opportunity or access. I also didn't know that this field was available to me, and in the school system that I was in, there was no FIRST. There was no FIRST Lego League. There was no FIRST Robotics. But once we began to expose people to the different opportunities and the different options that they have, and then also let them know, hey, you're welcome here, and we're going to let you go as far as you want to, then people start investing back into your company and back into the industry as a whole, right? And there's a lot of opportunity to align with the groups that are in these areas doing the work currently, the urban leagues, the boys and girls clubs that have the system set up to work on some of the things like soft skills or bringing people into the area or bringing people together to see the trades. MFG Day is a big thing for people that have never been exposed, and we got to get better with that.
Awesome. Megan, same question over to you.
So to kind of piggyback off of everything that Andrew said, when I was going through high school, I didn't know about any of these programs too. We did have some sort of VOTech program, but it was mostly filled with guys, and they were more encouraged over the women to join those programs. When I tried to graduate early because I hated school and I wanted nothing to do with it, my counselor advised me that that was a bad idea and forced me to take a bunch of AP classes that I almost failed. So it was really counterproductive with the advice that they gave me. And then by the time I hit college, I was on academic probation for the first 2 years, ended up getting pregnant with my daughter Annie, who's sitting over there. And I kind of had to figure everything out on the fly because I was a young teenage mom who was single. So I just happened to fall upon technical writing and get into manufacturing that way. So there's a lot of, we have to upskill the student counselors as well too. We have to have them understand what CNC machining is. When people look at CNC machining, they don't know what that even stands for. They're not really talking about additive manufacturing in high schools either. Yeah, there's some talk about robotics and electronics and mechanical engineering, but they don't see the bigger picture. They're only taught the basics, and depending on the budget of the school, if they don't have the money for all the fancy, cool technologies, then they're limited to the exposure of what's actually out there. So we have to work together as a community and be more proactive in getting involved in sort of defining what modern manufacturing is to the community members, because if we're not the ones telling them, they're not going to get that education, and like you said, they're not going to care to invest in it. So we have to be the cheerleaders and get out there, volunteer our time, whether that's a mentorship program, opening up your doors for facility tours, or starting a first robotics team. We have to be the ones to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at manufacturing and what's going to propel us forward, it's not going to be by some grant, it's not going to be by some massive state or local or federal legislation. It's going to really come down to the individual and the individual community, because you can see plots of areas that are massively successful. I mean, eCami is a great story of that, where they were funded not by massive federal grants, but by another local manufacturer in the area, where they're actually taking out of East Kentucky, they're taking ex-coal miners, kids who are coming right from high school, and they're teaching them a curriculum right away. And you're going from a person who's been an ex-coal miner for 40 years, and they're learning how to run a CNC machine for the first time. They're learning how to program a cobot for the first time. They're learning how to program an autonomous mobile robot, a mere robot that you'll see on the Expo floor tomorrow when you're running around. You're going to see how this technology is really enabling people. You know, Jay, over to you. When we're looking at how you're driving change in the industry, what's the impact that you're working towards? You know, as a business leader, I didn't cover all of the boards that you sit on during the intro, but you know, what are you seeing as an impact that's moving our industry forward in manufacturing?
Well, the role of CBT is to be the conduit between the manufacturers of the products and our customers, and to really help them figure out, you know, how they're going to be able to do it better, how they're going to be able to use Industry 4.0 or the, you know, the latest and greatest technology to make their not only their process better, but make the environment better, to make it safer, to have better lighting, to have the workplace be more inviting. And you know, it's an interesting spot, because it's always evolving and it's always creating different challenges. And one of the things I think that happened with COVID was, you know, the labor challenges that we've all outlined this morning have forced manufacturers to really rethink how they're doing things, how they're attracting new talent to the industry. And it's made them up their games, you know, and really think about what their culture is and how they're going to fill that 2.3 million person gap over the next 5-10 years. Every single customer we talk to, they talk about labor challenges. And so automation is going to be key to that. It's not a robot replacing a person, it's a robot making a process better, right? And so, you know, that I think would probably be the most, you know, appropriate and relevant way that we're helping.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we're seeing progress moving forward, is technology is being used to enable the worker, not to replace the worker. I think one of the biggest misconceptions, like I always battle when I'm out there, is saying, Jake, robots are taking jobs. Automation is taking jobs. And I think automation is the only thing in a lot of cases that's keeping our industry alive. Automation's allowing it, so we're bringing and attracting a future workforce into our industry. As technology is becoming more of a life choice and a culture that we live in, we're not going to go and work for a company that is not technology enabled. You know, Megan, over to you again. You know, what do you see progress in the next 18, 24, 5 months? What do you see progress look like in manufacturing from a technology perspective, and also, you know, from a cultural perspective? What is that progress moving forward?
I think progress for a lot of the smaller companies is going to be having some form of automation integrated into their processes. Without it, they're just going to fall behind. There's no way that they can keep up with it if they don't think about investing in their automation. I think another area of progress is them actually investing not just in Gen Zers, but also Generation Alpha. They're coming up. They're going to be our future buyers and also our future employees. And if your core values don't match with what their core values are, they're not going to be interested in working with you. Then dear to my heart, of course, is all the women who are stepping up and they're doing welding, they're doing CNC machining, they're stepping up in leadership positions in construction. They're ignoring what the status quo was, and they're flexing their arms. They're taking the chances. They're taking the risks, and seeing them mentoring the next generation has been really cool to see as well too. And that's the other thing. Without the men in this sector, women wouldn't have the path that they have now either. So I don't want to ignore the fact that there's a lot of great men mentors out there as well too. So I feel like we're at a time where we know if we don't start fixing this gap that's existing, we're in trouble. So to piggyback off your word collaboration, to see more and more people collaborating and trying to figure out how we can fix this problem and making 1% better every single day, I think that's what it looks like for me.
So not to beat a dead horse, but collaboration and holistic approaches. I think that we have an amazing opportunity right now. We saw the slides. We saw where we are headed if we don't do something else, but we don't have the luxury of, being nonchalant about it anymore. And I think that as an industry, we are beginning to become more intentional on our approaches, and that's a beautiful thing, right? And we look at, I go back to the powerhouse that he has, and it's a holistic approach. CBT won't just sell you a belt, but they'll sell you the drives that are going to make that belt be the best for you. They'll give you the PLCs, and before they even sell you these things, they're going to show you the value of the whole picture. We've got to look at our industry and our workers the same way. We've got to take that holistic approach. This person isn't the same as Bob when he came in 50 years ago, and Bob is our best worker, but we won't create another Bob. We can create another Bob 2.0. So if we can create a collaborative environment from the people that have all the knowledge and then the people that are coming in with the new knowledge and the new technology, then we've got like this Voltron guy where everybody came together, and we've got that collaborative environment where the old mixes with the new, and then we've got the best that comes out of that, right? Or we can say, hey, this isn't working, let's keep on going, right? And when you foster that environment of holistic approaches and collaboration, then you get a better picture, and you've got a whole worker, and you've got a more whole environment. So I think that we can all take a chapter out of the book of the Powerhouse again and treat our workers the same, treat our processes the exact same way with that holistic approach. And that way we've got more of an industry that's going forward. Our training systems the same way. If I have a company, Megan has a company, Jay has a company, and we're all training people different ways, and then they leave, we're not really doing our industry too much of a justice. But if we all get together and say, hey, we might compete manufacturing wise, but let's get together on building the next group of talent. Let's get together on donating to these tech schools. Let's get together on making MFG Day amazing so that kids can come and take their choice from your company to my company. Because there's going to be kids that want to do aerospace. There's going to be kids that want to do medical. There's going to be kids that want to do PLCs and stuff. And, they might not know until they've had a good taste of the industry. So if our training is all holistic and it's all, pretty much the same, then I know we're just populating the pond. And whether you get the fish today or you get the fish or I get the fish, we've all got fish that are great, right? And then inside of that pond, natural selection, they're going to just keep on getting better, right? And if we have enough fish to fill these jobs, and then we'll have, you know, fish to choose from. And we say, hey, yo, I like the fish. I like mahi tuna. Do you like, you know? and we can make that happen, right? And you know, that only comes from, you know, tearing down some of the traditional walls that we've had in our industry and redefining, you know, how we work together, redefining the fact that we are going to work together and being more intentional on the way that we do it.
So working together, I think, you know, Jay, I'm going to pass this over to you. We're at a trade show, right? We're at a trade show, we're at an in-person event, and I'm going to have this question go on to all of you because you all have your own version of an in-person event. You know, why are trade shows so important today? I mean, this will be, at this point in time, this will be my 9th show so far, and I have 13 more to go this year, so I'll be at over 25, 30 trade shows this year. But why are trade shows and in-person events so important in manufacturing, especially when we say we're pumping technology, we're pushing out being more digital, being more online, but why are in-person events just so critical to us as a community?
Sure, yeah. Trade shows are something that we've always done and we've always participated in, and sometimes it's a lot of time on the road, and you know, there's a lot of good collaboration and so forth. But what I think happened over the last couple of years is they disappeared. And people now are going back, and the level of enthusiasm, the level of interest, the level of collaboration that's happening is unprecedented. I've seen more people at the latest trade shows than I've ever seen. And the conversations that we're able to have in person are tremendous. And it's really can't be done with a Zoom call. It can't be done digitally. I mean, sure, we had to do that for a while. But getting back together in person and really talking to each other and talking through problems and looking at solutions is something you just can't do on a Zoom call. So yeah, I think they're more powerful and they're more important than they've ever been. And you know, I think the show you're going to see over the next 2 days is a testament to that. I mean, we did a show last year. We didn't know how many people were going to show up. You couldn't even walk through the show floor by the middle of the day. And that's tremendous. That just shows you the appetite that's out there. So
I think the one thing that's cool about trade shows now is when you're walking out there, people who are coming to these are looking for real applications. They're actually in need of a solution for their problem. I mean, when we used to walk to trade shows, you know the person who will go out there, they get their goodie bag right when they walked in, and they're grabbing as many pencils and pens and, you know, fidget spinners as they can from each booth. But I think today we're here because we have problems we need solutions for. And I think it's not just the technology that is going to help us solve the problem, it's learning from other people on what those experiences look like, and learning that, you know what, we are all competitors in some cases, but we're also part of the same community. And in order for us to succeed, we all have to succeed in the sense. You know, Megan, over to you. The same thing. Why are in-person events, and not just trade shows, but everything you're doing from when you organized, you know, doing a speaking at a high school for the in-person event, you know, getting young kids excited to everything else you're doing. Why are you seeing such importance in this part?
Well, for one, you can't hug people through a computer, and I'm a hugger, so you've all been warned. So if you don't want to hug, then don't introduce yourself to me, because I'm going to give you a hug. But yeah, I think you touched on what I was going to say. So I'm a visual learner. I like to pick things up and hold it in my hand and have that face-to-face conversation. That's the easiest way for me to retain information, especially as a writer. In order for me to get the tone and the voice of the companies that I'm writing for, I actually have to have conversations with them and kind of pick up on their mannerisms. Otherwise, their brand narrative falls through the cracks. It's not going to be as effective. You don't get that emotion. When you meet people face-to-face and you ask them why they're doing this job or why they like their job, you can see the emotion, you can see the passion, and that's how we connect with people as social beings. For students specifically, you know, in certain communities, they're not going to be exposed to other areas where they're doing other things. So these trade shows are an opportunity to bring them together and see a little bit of different things that are all over. you know, they don't know how giant these robots can get. So when they go to IMTS, they're going to actually be able to see those robotic arms pick up a car, or they're going to see additive manufacturing machines printing out a combustible engine for space. They're going to be able to ask questions and shake hands with the decision makers and hear those stories, and that's going to make a difference for them when they're trying to make the biggest choice of their life. Like, who ever really knew how to answer that question when you were like, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? And if it's something boring like a teacher, and this is, you know, I'm not saying that teaching is boring to everybody, but for me, that was not something I was interested in doing. I needed something more exciting for myself. And I just don't have patience for other people's kids, but, you know, just saying, I would not have been a good teacher. So that advice I got from my student counselor would have been a wreck for a lot of people. So for kids to be able to have conversations with their, you know, potential heroes of theirs, I think that's where trade shows and in-person events make a huge difference, because they're going to be able to see their passion, ask them questions they can't ask their teachers or other individuals within their communities, and actually see these cool technologies that they're only learning pretty much the basics about in action and getting that whole picture.
I'm going to use 2 words: adult playground. So for me, trade shows are like, I get to become a kid again. And I think that they are so important for, you know, as an ex-instructor, as an ex-programmer, as an ex, you know, machinist, when you go there, you become a brand ambassador for the things that you see, right? So I would come back to the hood and be like, yo, they're 3D printing cars and then they're driving them, bro. You know what I'm saying? And I still talk about this as 2016, and I still talk about this today. And it's like, oh my goodness. And then this next generation of kids and workers, first thing they do is get on Google and can they 3D print a car and drive it, right? And then that starts that thought process of what can happen, what can be real. And it goes back to that innovation and pushing our industry forward. I think without having trade shows for the past 2 years, that could have really affected the amount of workers that we do have coming in, and the slow adaptation of the technology that is pushing us forward and helping innovate. So, you know, beyond all of the other great reasons that they said, you know, we have the opportunity to show what's next, to show what's possible, to start those minds at an early age to say, yo, what can we actually do with this thing, and how far can I take this? Or I had this idea that I thought was just a harebrained thing, but now I saw 3 booths where I can really make this idea happen. Let me get to work. And I think that that is one of the most important things. Another thing is, again, that collaboration. When else would we have all of you guys representing different brands, girls too, I'm sorry, all of you people, all of us people in the same place where we have the opportunity to collaborate, where we have the opportunity to talk about our technologies and how mine can work with yours to make yours even better, right? And that's the beauty of when we are able to get together and get into these trade shows. And I would challenge you guys to not come alone. Find somebody in a community that you can sponsor. Find a school that you can sponsor, because this is the only time where you're going to get that hands-on, where you're going to take an idea or something that you saw and then actually put your hands on it and see it as something that's real and something that's an actual, you know, possibility. So I love the trade shows. I love that we're coming back. I love that we're filling these things up outside of me getting to play with all of you guys' great latest technology, but because we can show it, we can continue to build it and continue to push it.
Awesome. You know, I think a lot of that has to do with how we're reinventing what we're doing in a lot of areas. And Jay, this next one's actually for you. So your family's been reinventing what you're bringing to the industry for several decades. You know, originally CBT started out as a belting company, and you guys have evolved where you're not just doing belting anymore, you're doing robots, you're doing control systems, you're doing PLCs, you're doing so much more. Why is that evolution so important from you as a solutions provider to a lot of the companies in this audience? You know, why is that reinventing matter, and why does it matter for the people who are here? Why do they need to continue to reinvent themselves as well?
Yeah, it's extremely important to continue to evolve. And CBT started over 100 years ago selling leather line shaft belts. Everyone had line shafts, you needed leather belts. And continued to add products and services over the next 50, 60 years, mostly power transmission. But in the 80s, the focus really started going more towards electrical. And so by looking at the industry, understanding what was out there, what was changing. These PLCs started coming up, these AC drives, DC drives. And my father would actually go over to Hanover Fair in Germany to understand kind of what the next generation of technology was that was coming out, and how we could bring that back and help our customers with it. And that's just continued to evolve over the last 30 years at a very, very quick rate. And when you look at the opportunities for our customers to be able to collect data, to be able to leverage the network that already exists around their facility, to be able to make their processes better, to your statistic earlier, there's a lot that know that there's an opportunity, but don't know how to implement it. And there's also a lot to it, right? You have cybersecurity challenges. You've got just some vulnerability, but with that risk comes the opportunity to make things better. And so we've continued to assemble people, very smart people, very innovative people who can help our customers achieve their goals. And that's how we've evolved. The number one thing that we've always tried to do is listen to our customers and understand what they're trying to do. As my dad likes to say, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, use them in that proportion. And it's important, especially for salespeople. And so that's really how we got to where we are today, and it's just the beginning.
What technology excites you the most right now with what you guys have seen? I mean, and I think it's one of those things that we're speaking to how the generations of working in manufacturing have shifted. No one would say, oh, I want to work for a manufacturer because they have leather belts.
Yeah.
But when we look at today, now you have robotics, you have cobots, you have robots driving around. What technology would you say is some of the most exciting stuff that you're seeing as a leader in the industry?
Well, on top of the robotics and automation, it's back to that data and the opportunity to use software and information to help make not only your processes better, but make the job better, right? To have predictability in what could be failures, or in scrap, or whatever that might be that you're able to collect data on, and then be able to leverage that to make things better, to make it more attractive, to make it a different type of process. So it's really that evolution that we've been talking about all morning in manufacturing, and that's what's most exciting to me. And there's a lot to be done there. So,
question. We'll go over to you, Megan. What do you see manufacturers doing well in this industry that's exciting, and bringing in a future workforce? We gave some examples, but what have you personally seen that's really saying that's what's going to bring new kids in?
So what I've seen, not necessarily for new kids, but for more women, is they're creating sort of like flex schedules, but also considering childcare options. So that was a big one for me in terms of the cost. I was more than willing to take a pay cut if they were able to cover some of the child costs for childcare. Because, I mean, if you're looking for a job that makes a lot of money, consider childcare, because they charge an arm and a leg for that stuff per kid. But one of the things that I really like, so I went back to my high school that I graduated from, and right away the CNC machines that I was looking at all said Haas on them. So I really get excited about companies who are proactive in terms of getting into the schools and actually talking to the kids themselves, and either donating or finding a way to get their machines into the classes. Because now when those kids think of CNC machining, they're going to think of Haas right away. So anything that you can do to put yourselves in front of the kids in the next generation, so as they're growing up, they can talk about your products, they can know who you are, they're going to become brand ambassadors for themselves, and then eventually they're going to say, I want to work for a brand like that. So I think that's one of the coolest things that I'm seeing in terms of how manufacturers are getting the younger kids involved. And again, FIRST Robotics, I think, is a huge one. So if you're a company and you want to set up a mentorship program, I think FIRST is the way to go, because it's not just building a robot within 6 weeks. It's actually teaching them soft skills as well, too. It's teaching them how to problem solve. It's teaching them how to work together as a team. It's teaching them how to be a leader, how to, budget something out, which is something I'm still struggling with because I just suck at math. But it's, giving them those extra skills aside from just putting a bunch of components together and making a really cool robot. It's a team effort, and that's something that we need as we grow older and start getting into these career opportunities. We need all of those skills to be a successful company. So if you don't have a FIRST Robotics team, if you're not sponsoring one or mentoring one, I highly suggest doing that, because the companies that are seem to be successful in attracting and retaining the next generation workforce.
Same question.
Same question. We're down to our last minute, so you can either do the question of what do you see manufacturers doing well, or what are opportunities or blind spots that are currently in manufacturing. So as we wrap up the questions, what are manufacturers doing well, and then maybe follow up to your own with what are areas that you see improvement.
Okay, so I'll be quick on doing well because they had some great points. But doing well, again, that intentionality. Manufacturers that are creating programs, manufacturers that say there's no apprenticeship program in my state, let me start one. Manufacturers that are saying, we're willing to work alongside the tech school or the middle school and help you earn while you learn. Come 4 hours here, we'll pay you a limited amount of money that will become this amount of money after you go through your tech school program. And having that collaboration, again, is really strengthening our industry as a whole and making it easier for people to come in more prepared to be a lifelong worker for our industry. And then second question. The gaps, blind spots. I'm going to say this. So if you are a company that is not doing most of the things that Jake suggested in his earlier presentation, that's a blind spot. If you don't have a website, if you are not showing your technology, if you don't put out content, or you don't collaborate with somebody that does, then there are kids that are Googling you and they're Googling your competitors. If you don't have a website, they're automatically shutting you off. You could be the best manufacturer in the area, and if they don't see that digitally, they will not relate. They will not want to work there. They'll also maybe leave you a bad review. If your culture is bad and you do have some way that you're connected to this tech school and you're hiring a bunch of kids and they're coming in and they're seeing that you're false advertising or the culture isn't really what we'd like to do, they're going to talk about it. They're digital natives. So you're really hurting yourself by not jumping in the game right now, by not consulting with the experts, by not digitizing in any way that you can, however your financial, situation works. You are really shooting yourself in the foot, right? There's plenty of review sites, right? And if a student works there and they don't like it, they're going to blast you. And if you don't have an online presence, the first thing that they see when they Google your company is going to be all of those bad reviews. So the next generation of kids aren't going to want to come there, or they'll come there for the training or the few things that are good, and then they'll jump ship. Okay, so that's my number one in question time, right?
87% of millennials are going to view your content on social media before they enter a job interview. So the precedence and the thought that they have as you as a company and the culture you have as a company starts before they even walk in that door. So what are you doing as a company that's going to say, you know what, we are a forward-thinking organization that's showing how we're attracting a future workforce? That's a big thing. Megan, same question to you. What are some of, I guess you could say, the blind spots that manufacturers currently have within manufacturing?
I don't think they're doing a really good job connecting with their community. There are some companies that are, but in terms of where I come from, a lot of people don't even know who the manufacturers are in the community, and they have giant signs everywhere. So I think not just connecting with the students and their families, but also connecting with the teachers in the schools, also connecting with other businesses who are part of the community, and really just creating that holistic collaboration. The high school that I graduated from, I keep bringing that up because I'm doing a lot of work for them, especially because their VOTEC program is in trouble. They're losing 2 teachers to retirement. They have no new applicants coming in. If they don't find people to fill those positions, they're going to lose those classes because they're not going to have anyone to teach them. And once they lose those classes, they're going to lose the budget, which is a real bear to get back once you lose it. So I'm trying to connect them with the community. Andrew and I are collaborating together. He's going to come back to the community with the Renaissance Tour, and we're going to connect the community to the manufacturers and have them give them an opportunity to ask some questions, especially one, why should we care that you're here in our town, and what can we do to help make you successful, in return make us successful. So I think just that whole gap between community, it's kind of like the gap that existed between sales and marketing. Why should marketing and sales get together? Well, why should community and the manufacturing companies get together? Because we're all connected, it's all important, and again, if we aren't the ones going to the community, they're not going to come to us and care. So provide opportunities like facility tours and get in front of the teachers. With virtual technologies too, try to find someone who can volunteer like a half an hour or 45 minutes to teach a class via Zoom or something, because that's one of the things we were talking about at the high school that I graduated from. We thought maybe a guest lecturer would be appropriate, because then it would give them an opportunity to see something outside of what they're learning.
Yeah.
Real fast, because I missed this, and her speaking brought it up. Back to the intentionality, right? And blind spots. I do a lot of audits at companies, and they say, hey, Drew, we want you to come in and figure out, why we can't get more women workers, why we can't get, more workers from our neighboring community that's black and brown and have a huge jobless rate. We've got the jobs. And I walk into the shop, and on the first 3 boxes, I see Playboy posters. And on these 3 boxes, I see Confederate flags. And no matter what you like, or no matter what you feel like that stands for, it's not about you. It's about the people that you claim you want to get. Also, I look at their board, and it's all white males. There's no women on there. There's no black and brown people at all. So what you don't understand that you're doing is, when you bring women in for a tour, when you bring black and brown people in for a tour, subconsciously they're seeing that there's a ceiling here at this job. If I don't assimilate with this culture where it's okay to see naked women, where it's okay to see, these types of symbolism, then I'm not going to be here very long. If I do have aspirations of working until I get a boardroom position or become the president of this company, and there have been no women presidents or no women board or high executive positions, then subconsciously that's not a possibility for me. So you could have the best technology, you could have the best apprenticeship program, but there you're giving a ceiling that you don't even know, which is a huge blind spot, and you're not going to get the talent that you claim that you want. Now, if you really want this talent, we've got to be intentional. When you do your shop tours, don't just put the women and the black people in the front and be like, oh, see, we have some. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not the move, right? We see through that, and that will hurt you as well. So, if you want that, you've got to work internally to make sure that this is really the culture and the vibe that we're giving off, right?
Yeah.
Innovation in a company is not just about the technology, it's about the culture that you're setting. We're going to wrap up with you, Jay. Talk about either where you're seeing manufacturers doing well or some blind spots, and then we're going to open up to the audience for about 9 minutes of Q&A.
Yeah,
where do you want to wrap
and
this
they
up?
covered it really well, but I think the biggest thing that I've seen is 2 things. One, really portraying and helping people to see manufacturing as not the dirty old manufacturing that it was, and that there is a great opportunity for a wonderful living and to really make a difference. I think that this supply chain challenge that we're all working through, and yes, we are the supply chain, so we get it, but it's made people really appreciate the value that manufacturing provides to our society, and the impact that when it's not able to keep up or not working due to challenges that it has on our lives. And so I think that continues to elevate the importance of manufacturing in our society. And so, that's really important. And the other piece is these guys said is culture. It really is important. I visit a lot of companies, and you can tell usually within about 5 minutes of walking in the door what the culture's like in there. And the ones that aren't having as many labor issues have better cultures. And it's a reality. And I was talking to a customer the other day, and I asked him that question, and most customers say, yeah, we just can't get enough people. I said, we're pretty good. We have a good family here. People like working here. They've been here for a long time. He's been here for 25 years. He's been here for 20. She's been here for 30, right? So it's a culture, and that's not easy to do. So
awesome. All right, well, we're going to open up the questions now to the crowd. Feel free to grab my microphone and we pass it out. If you have a question, feel free to raise your hand and we'll get it passed around.
Yeah, hi Jake. Hi guys. The question I have is about reshoring, right? So you guys talked about the skills gap and the talent pool gap. And I think that's definitely a trend, especially now with COVID and supply chain and globalization, retraction from that a little bit more localized. Do you guys see a challenge in kind of upskilling or providing the resources for talent, I guess, now that we're trying to reshore more manufacturing to the U.S. or North America? And where do you guys see that in your day-to-day?
I think overall we need to revamp our education system to include more STEM education at younger ages, but then also support the current workforce. So we need to think, how can we connect the current workforce and upskill them to some of these advancements and technologies that are happening? Because if we can't make the product, then we're never going to have things come back to us to make them. So we really need to pull together. We really need to get leadership involved, especially on the government side of things. We all have to come together and figure out how can we advance our education, because right now I feel like some of the education is a little dated in terms of what the new technologies are coming into for automation.
The reshoring was occurring prior to COVID. I mean, we saw it coming. Manufacturers were really looking more to invest in the United States, and with the impact that supply chains had, it's happening at a much faster pace. And so, to Megan's point, we got to be ready. A lot of our customers I had good conversations with that when COVID hit, they said, I've got products scattered across the world. I've got 10 different countries that I need to get product from, and 2 of them are shut down right now. And so really coming up with a better resiliency plan to overcome that is the how you reduce risk. And they're doing more of it here. And it's great. It's a great opportunity. Ohio in this area is a manufacturing hotbed, and you're seeing a tremendous amount of investment. And so I think it's just really exciting.
One more thing to add to that real quick. I think reshoring is going to move forward by becoming more visible with your information, your processes. When we're looking at manufacturers who want to work with local companies, they need to have better visibility in what their production looks like. They need to have better visibility into their ERP. I think one of the biggest things when we look at solutions on the floor, and you're going to walk the Rockwell portion of there, it's tapping into what that production looks like on the floor. And you can give information to your supplier and have it be secure. But if you're, as a supplier to a large tier 1, tier 2 manufacturer, and they have better access and analytics to what can you produce, what does your production look like for their parts. I think one of the biggest things for me is when I'm out there, and I have massive lead times with a lot of different manufacturers right now with my day job. It's not the fact that it's 6 months out there, everyone's 6 months out there, but if you're actually communicating with me and giving me a better understanding of why it's that way or where it's at, I'm gonna have a much better relationship with you because you're giving me access and information that's making it so I'm just not living in the dark. So that's one of the biggest things where I see reshoring moving forward is better visibility, better analytics, understanding your production, understanding your resources, and you're now, what you're doing as a supplier to a manufacturer is you're becoming part of their value stream. And you're part of their information, their culture now, where you're not just a customer to them, you're part of their entire organization and infrastructure. And when you can get set into that process, reshoring and you as an individual and you as a company is gonna be a lot more valuable than a product overseas. Next question.
Hey guys, Kevin with Siemens Software. First of all, if I left right now, I got way more out of this event than I even expected, so awesome job so far. So if you're in Cincinnati and you don't know about the Great Oaks program, make sure you guys learn about the vocational program with Great Oaks. Scarlet Oaks is right here. I'm a graduate of Live Oaks. Total career opportunity difference for me, so everything you guys talked about, big vocational fan. But I had a very interesting challenge this weekend. I had a close family friend bring their sophomore to my house. They're like, hey, Kevin went to vocational school, you should talk to him. That was it. So I've got a sophomore at my house that I've never met, and I'd just ask you guys, what would you tell the sophomore about vocational school?
Being an ex-instructor at Rankin Technical College in St. Louis, Missouri, we struggle with this a lot, you know what I'm saying? And more importantly, we struggle with some of the things that Jake showed on the slide. Like when people get into trade schools, they're usually gonna go to automotive, they're gonna go to electrical, plumbing, things that they see, things that they know. They've got an uncle that's a plumber. They see in an electrical van. They go with mom to get their car serviced, right? And these are real jobs that they can see and that they've seen, and they see a career pathway. They know where they end up, right? It might not be what they want, but at least they have some type of idea. If I do this, I can get there. I challenge us to be more vocal and work harder on this rebrand. Hey, do you like, I used to take kids from the automotive department on their tour and say, hey, do you like just turning a wrench on a car, or do you want to design an engine? You know what I'm saying? Do you want to, be the guy that works on somebody else's ideas, just tinkering and fixing them? Or do you want to make do you want to be the next Celine? Do you want to be the next Ford? You have that opportunity, you have that possibility. So find what they're interested in. I've got a son right now, he's not with us because he's with us, but but he's a senior. He's a senior at SLU High School in St. Louis, Missouri, and I've been working on tricking him to get into this field. And the way that I did it is he's a sneakerhead. He loves shoes, right? So there's a magazine called Complex Magazine, and Complex is all about culture, shoes, clothes, all the stuff that he's into, right? And they had an available internship to do 3D design and digital twins for their sneaker designs. And so I said, hey, you want to design shoes? Come on. But now he knows CAD CAM. Now he knows I can sit him in front of Mastercam, and all the skills that he learned doing the 3D designing for the sneaker company easily translate over here. So I would tell them, for a vocational student, hey, what do you like outside of what we do? Because we do it all, right? And then show him how what he likes connects with what we do, and then even maybe some job positions. Hey, I was in Chicago speaking to a crowd. I usually speak to the hood or extremely rural people. There's a kid and he said, hey, Mr. Crow, I just like guns. And I said, tell me about guns. And he told me everything. I like my AR-15 chambered in this because it's better for this. I like this type of mag. I like this, and this. And I said, kid, you're a munitions expert. You could be designing, you're the next Smith & Wesson. You know so much at a young age about these things that if we put you on a track where you can design and you can work and you can innovate on something that you like that you've been told was bad, we turn that into a good thing, and now they're excited about it, and that's all they want to do.
Good morning. I'm Andy Basilovac from Procter & Gamble, and just last week I was at University of Illinois talking to ASME, trying to get people to apply. The career fair is coming up, and I saw in them what I see in my 10-year-old daughter, which is a little bit like the attention span of a fly, right? And seeing Instagram and all these things, they're bombarded with messages every day, like this person is doing the coolest thing, and they're looking at like the Six Sigma person that's skilled in that particular field. And recognizing that for every 1 minute of a cool demo on the floor tomorrow takes like hundreds of hours of engineering and work behind it. As we try to attract the talent and retain it, what are some of the things that we can do to appropriately manage their expectations about what work is going to be like without completely turning them off?
So that goes into communication, right? So when we are in interviews or we are talking about our company, what was the saying, 2 ears, 1 mouth? Let's hear what they want, and then you show them that pathway, right? So when you bring people into your plant, especially from these 2 generations, it's shown that if you can keep them past year 3, then they'll be there forever. And it's not a financial thing. It's not, them wanting to make a ton of money. It's about them wanting to belong and wanting to feel like the skill set that they have or the passions that they have help move this company forward. I love CBT when he said family. When I first walked into CBT, I felt the family. I felt like part of the family, and that's the culture, right? So you have to find people that are either aligned with your culture or alter the culture to be able to align with what the people want, right? And that doesn't mean changing anything about your business model. It doesn't mean, changing, necessarily the way that you do business. It's just showing that we do the things that you like. This is how we do them, right? So if you want to become, the head programmer here, here's the track that we'll put you on, and you can see it clearly. You can know how you're being measured, and then you can guide yourself to how fast or how slow you want to make it there. So giving them the path, laying it out for them, and then showing them and supporting them on their way there is something that I've seen that's been very helpful.
I think in terms of marketing too, you have to have a good hold on what your brand narrative is, so not brand story. Brand story is more business centric. It's usually the story behind the founder of the company or the owner of the company and their reasons of why they started the company and why they do what they do. Brand narrative is like, so the analogy that I got was the brand story is a pearl on a necklace, and then the necklace is the brand narrative. So it's combining the different stories and showcasing that. So you have to show what your culture is to these kids. You have to introduce them to the different workers that are on the shop floor, that are in the office, that are the leadership. If your CEO is available, have them come and actually talk to the kids, but not talk so much that you're explaining to them what you're doing, but actually asking them questions like you said. What are you interested in? What are you passionate about? What products do you like? Most of us purchase from brands on a consistent basis because we connect somehow with that brand. So I'm a huge fan of Harley Davidson. Love what they do. I love Nike shoes. I love their commercials. I love the stories that they're telling through their commercials. It's not so much focusing on the product itself, but it's focusing on different things that are happening in the community and then tying that product into it. If you don't have these conversations with kids, they're gonna think that you don't care about them. So when I did an event last year with Andrew, we let the kids ask questions. We let them talk. At first, they were all bottled up and like, why should I care about this? But then, who was it, Aaron? He pulled out a PlayStation gaming control and showed how they coded that control to control one of the robots in their facility. The kids were like this the entire time, and then all of a sudden they were like, I have that at my house. I can program that at my house. How do we do that? So they were able to connect with these individuals and ask those kinds of questions. And yeah, of course it's all hard work, but like you said, if you're transparent about what the work is involved, and how you can get through that journey, more than likely they're going to be excited to do that hard work because it's providing value to the community. And with these younger generations, they want to be part of something that's bigger than themselves. So if you can show that bigger picture and it excites them, they're going to want to work with you.
So a couple of other notes to add on to that. One of the things that I know of a manufacturer they do is every Friday afternoon they open it up where it's a reskill learning session where they can take the people who are out there on the floor, they're working, and they had the last 3 hours of every Friday where they can learn the tasks that they want to learn. They can learn the skills that they want to learn. They can use the equipment on the floor for a project that they want to work on. So now you're giving them the resources of the company to allow them to pursue what they're passionate about and learning and what they want to learn. In fact, the same company, they have a job interview for current employees there every 6 months. So it's not a annual review. It's a, hey, you've been at our company. What do you want to do? What are you seeing? What are we going to do that's going to allow you to enable you to grow in the company, but also allow us to give you the resources that they are. They have one of the lowest turnover rates as a manufacturer because they're constantly asking their employees what they want to do, what they want to learn. If you have a person that says, I want to learn this new skill, I want to be a robot programmer, but you've never actively engaged to learn what they want to learn and what they want to do and grow as a company, they're going to leave to work for a company that's going to give them that opportunity. So they're actively engaging with their current workforce. That's allowing them to say, what do you want to continuously learn? What new skills do you want to learn? And they're growing within. But their culture that they're creating then is allowing their current employees to be more open about what their expectations are as working there, but also what their expectations are as to the people who are hiring them. We have time for one more question. If not, we have one in the way back. Sorry, we beat you by just a second.
How you doing? Ted Jasper, CBT. So it sounds like we're having trouble getting people to go to trade schools and two-year tech colleges. I know some of them are doing all right, but how does a conversation go with getting a middle school or a high school that has no technology? How does that go? Have they embraced that? Thank you.
So those are the areas that I'm always in, right? So typically on tour, I speak in a conference room like this, and I have gold teeth and hoodies sitting next to flannels and cowboy boots, right? And they both have the same issues. Our school district needs our kids to have these skills to get those jobs, but we can't afford the machines. We can't afford the curriculum. And if we can get a grant to do that, or we get a donation from industry, we can't find someone that is knowledgeable to be able to teach it. And I will say this, trade schools are coming back. Trade schools, there's dignity in the trades. People are talking about it again. And with the 4-year, old American dream where you go to 4-year university, your life will be okay. Now we're all buried in debt, right? And we are, rethinking what the American dream is. And a lot of people see tech school and getting a trade to be able to pay your way through a 4-year school and work your way through that school as the new American dream. However, our departments are the ones that are suffering. Like I said, the plumbers are killing it. Electricians and automotive, they're all killing it as far as trades go. So what we need to do is it goes back to that collaboration. You want the workers, go create them. Go get into those. Don't start a first robot league in the schools that can afford it. Go to the ones that cannot. Help them launch their Lego leagues. Help them launch their robotics programs because they want it. There's people that want to work and they don't have access to the skills. There is a robotics company that was going to donate me a robot to take into these areas. And they were like, you know what? The only one that we've got is 8 years old, and we don't want to put that in front of your kids. And the thing is, a lot of these rural kids, a lot of these urban kids have never seen a robot. And if we show them that 8-year-old robot, at least it gets those wheels turning. And they might not know that it's 8 years old, but when I come back, they'll email me and say, hey, the specs on that are down, man. That thing doesn't do this, and this. And now I know that seed that we planted grew, right? And that kid is doing the work. So I would urge us as the manufacturing community to be more intentional on what we do with our resources and donating resources, whether that's time from one of your great workers that can be an instructor where the need is, or do some video modules so that they don't need the instructor, they can just press play, and then they'll have community teach. But we've got to get back to the collaboration. We've got to understand that it does take a village, especially where we are, and we are the village. So we can't beget something that we want if we're not willing to put in to develop it.
We definitely have to be more vocal too, because the VOTEC programs were put on the back burner for so long. So in order for change to happen, we have to put ourselves in uncomfortable situations and go after the major decision makers who are making decisions for our whole community. The one example that I can bring up, which was mentioned before, is eCammy. Kathy Walker leads that, and she is just such a powerhouse. She saw a need with the coal miners. She knew that coal mining was on its way out and all of these workers were going to be out of jobs, and she was persistent. She got in front of the right people, and she kept getting in front of the right people. She did her own research. She was very proactive in getting that whole program set up so that these coal miners were able to get into a new skill, learn how to do CNC machining, and now they're adding other technologies. They just broke ground on a new facility with one of their correctional programs. So now anybody who's in that correctional facility, they're going to learn a new trade so that as soon as they get released, they have a better opportunity of getting employed right out of the bat and getting a second chance at life. People make mistakes. Kathy sees that. She's very compassionate. So if you don't know who she is, I suggest you follow her, because she has been a huge advocate for what's going on in Eastern Kentucky in terms of elevating manufacturing and getting recognition for the sector.
And just to follow up, as a business owner, we have to support these programs, right? They take money, they take technology. We've tried to support, whether it was Shelby County Workforce Development, Dayton Manufacturers, DMRA, the NKU with their automation lab, and even UC on some of the robotics teams and so forth, and just giving them the support. And a lot of times what they need is product. And so we'll work with our manufacturers, we'll work with Rockwell Automation and some of the other manufacturers that we have to help these folks build their robots, update their labs, send our folks in to update all the software and help them with making sure that they actually have the latest and greatest technology and products. And that takes some effort. And we've put a group together at CBT to help find those local opportunities within each of the communities that we live. And it's been really successful. So that's not something I created. That was something our team came up with. So.
Perfect. Can we give one more round of applause for Jay, Megan, and Andrew?